Welcome back to the RipeWave audio community. My name is John, and for this video, we are continuing our RipeWave audio series on home theater amplifiers in 2022, and this one is with Marantz. In this series, we have covered Monolith by Monoprice, Emotiva, Tone Winner, Iota VX, Outlaw Audio, Amplifier Technologies ATI, OSD, NAD, and this is our 9th video of the series with Marantz, and we are going to cover their 3 active models that they have in production today, which is the MM7025, the MM7055, and the MM8077, and these range from $1,000 to $2,500. And Marantz has had a long history of producing amplifiers, and we're going to see how they're doing today with this overview. And we'll take a look at our first model now, which is their MM7025. This is a 2-channel model that sells for $999, and this is putting out 140 watts per channel. And this model was introduced in 2010, and we're seeing that all these Marantz models are at least a decade old since they were announced, and perhaps even older from their initial designs, because these have evolved in some cases from prior models. And with this generation, we do see that it does follow the same look and feel as their AV receivers, their AV processors, with that porthole design and the brushed aluminum in the center with the plastic front plate on the far ends there, and the blue halo around that porthole. This gives some pretty basic information on the porthole, the power status, etc. There's a simple power button on this model. This, of course, as a 2-channel, is the slimmest of all of them that they have out there. And looking at the back, we can see that this model does employ a fan on this. The inputs are either balanced or unbalanced, so you have both there. And you do have your triggers, and along with the normal in-out triggers, you do have a flasher as well as a remote in and out, which I believe is unique to Marantz. Inside the MM7025, we can see that they're using an E-core transformer, and that they have some capacitors in here for storage here. And as we go up the model, we can see that they use larger capacitors as they go along, and when we get to the specifications, we'll talk about those. Also from 2010 is the 5-channel model, the MM7025, which sells for about $400 more at $1,399. This is 5 channels, giving you 140 watts per channel, but please note they're only giving a 2-channel rating on this. And I find this disappointing. We see Marantz and their other partner company, Denon, doing this quite a bit, where they don't give the full channel ratings, and they're not advertising their guarantee. I think it's 70% of the 2-channel rating is all channels driven, and they're not even doing that for these amplifier separates. And if I'm buying an amplifier separate, I am looking to increase the quality of my amplification. And I also would like to see them step up the game. If they're not doing it on the receivers, why can't they do it on their amplifier separates, all channel driven ratings? So that is disappointing, but they do rate it at 140 watts with that limitation. And we can see that the similar design language is used here as we see through the whole series. And of course, on the back, it's just the additional inputs in there for channels 3 through 5. Moving into this unit, It gets a little more complex. It is still an E-core transformer. Now, what I've noticed is on these Marantz units is there's a lot of boards and a lot of wires. Unlike a lot of the other brands, there's a lot of simplicity in what's inside of this. Sometimes this translates into better sound characteristics, but other times when you start adding more boards and more wires, you create a situation where you could have the sound degrade because of that. And it does look a little messy. It seems like they could have taken a little more time to engineer this, to simplify the layout and the design. It's not like they have 10, 20 models in their portfolio and they're trying to make this very modular. They have 3 models, and these have existed for over a decade. I would like to see a little more refinement, a little more consolidation here, and that simplicity usually translates into better sound. Looking at the MM8077, their 7-channel model, which sells for $2,499. Again, the same design language. This was introduced in 2012, a couple years later. But keep in mind that this one was derived from the MM8003, which was introduced in 2008. Like the 7055, the 8077, for the 7 channels, rating of 150 watts, that's at 2 channels driven, not all channels driven. So we have the same situation there. The back is similar with the 2 additional inputs and outputs, giving you a total of 7 channels. As we saw with the 7055, the insides on this are quite busy. If you really want to see a teardown on this, Boardtech does a video where they tear this completely down. They take every wire, screw, board out, and you can see on there that most of these boards say MM8003 on there, with just the depopulation. That 8003 was an 8-channel model. This is a 7. So this is a depopulated 8003. When it comes to the boards, I think there might be only one additional board on here for something about the power monitoring or something like that that's different. But otherwise, this is very much like the 2008 model that's out there. Looking at these side by side, we see the consistency of the design language front and back. Inside, there are variations. So each one of these does have a different layout, different boards in here. There might be some components that are shared inside, but we definitely see the lack of refinement that they really haven't simplified these from an interior point of view over the last decade since these have been out. Now on to the specifications. So we have our 7025 2-channel model, 7055 5-channel model, and the 8077 7-channel models. The impedance on these are the same. For unbalanced connections, 22 kilo ohms. For balanced connection, 30 kilo ohms. These are giving input and output triggers. We'd like to see that. Of course, they all are also giving a flasher and a remote connection. So that is welcome to see for integration with your processor or your receiver. The sensitivity for the inputs is 1.2 volts for the unbalanced and 2.4 volts for the balanced connections. The cost per channel here for the 2-channel model is $500. The 5-channel model is $280, and with the 7-channel model, it goes up slightly to $357. These are all Class AB amplifiers and all provide a gain of 29 dBs for 6 to 8 ohm impedance loads. Now you'll see some reviews that say that you can use 4 ohm speakers with this. Marantz isn't outwardly talking about that, so I would be hesitant to use any of these with 4 ohm loads, although you probably could get away with it. If I'm buying a separate amplifier and I know I have 4 ohm speakers, I want that manufacturer to make the claim that this is intended for 4 ohm speakers right in the literature, right in the manual. And if they're not doing that, it makes me nervous, even if you can get away with it. None of these have an output for daisy chaining. So if you do want to buy amp with a separate amplifier, you'll have to use an external splitter. On the output side, as said before, we have 140 watts for the 2-channel models, as well as the 5-channel model, and the 7-channel model is 150 watts. So you get 10 extra watts with the 7-channel model. Keep in mind that these are all 2-channel driven specifications. That extra 10 watts per channel probably won't be that noticeable, but you do have it. At 6 ohm loads, it does go up slightly to 170 watts for the first 2 models and 180 for the 7-channel model. These are all measured at full range, 20 to 20,000 hertz, which is good. The total harmonic distortion these are measured at 0.08% is also respectable. Its signal-to-noise ratio, A-weighted, is 105 decibels for each model. So it doesn't bring you into the class that some of these others are, like the ATI or the NAD, that gets up over 120 decibels on the signal-to-noise ratio. Of course, we'll do more full comparisons at the end of this series. And these are all rated equally. Each channel is got the same rating. For dimensions, these are all 17.4 inches wide, 440 millimeters. The depth ranges from 13.9 inches, 352 millimeters, to the upper models are 15 inches deep with 384 millimeter depth. The width is consistent at 17.4 inches, 440 millimeters. Weights range from the 2-channel model at 23.8 pounds, 10.8 kilograms, up to the 7-channel model, which is 45.4 pounds, 18 kilograms. They all have removable IEC power cords. They have models for 120 and 240 volts, depending where you source this product from, which country. So that is determined at the factory. As we said before, the first 2 models are E-core, whereas the 7-channel model is a toroid based. The power consumption is 330 watts for the 2-channel model, 660 watts for the 5-channel model, 900 watts for the 7-channel model, and the standby power ranges from 0.2 watts to 0.4 watts. The capacitance on these, the 2-channel is at 30,000 microfarads, 65,000 microfarads for the 5-channel model, and 100,000 microfarads for the 7-channel model, with a dampening factor of 100 decibels for each of these. None of them have a chassis ground. And that sums it up for Marantz. So what do you think? Do you like these Marantz amplifiers? Do you think they're acceptable quality? If you're considering them, how strong of a factor is that cosmetically to match your receiver or your processor? Are you considering a Marantz separate amplifier, even if you don't have a Marantz processor or receiver? That feedback would be useful to the RipeWave audio community. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And of course, we have our Patreon site now at www.patreon.com/RipeWave. So if you want to support this channel in a stronger way, consider being a patron. That would be much appreciated. And if you want to be informed when the next video is posted, please hit the bell icon so you'll be notified. Until the next video, keep evolving your audio experience.